Well, hey everyone, my name is Lisa Tamati, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your immune system and the aging of the immune system, or something that's called immunosenescence, and why we at Avum Labs have decided to go after the aging of the immune system. So I want to give you a bit of a backstory as to how and why I got into this. So 9 years ago, my mum, Isabel, had a massive aneurysm and then a stroke on top of that. And she was left fighting for her life, and she had massive brain damage. And when she finally came through after 3 weeks of being in critical care and survived the initial event, we were told that she had massive brain damage, that she would never have any quality of life again. And in my desperate search to help her, I started to study. Now, that's 9.5 years ago, on everything that I could do to rehabilitate her in the first instance, and then to understand what had happened to her, and then how we could improve things moving forward. I've written a book about her journey. It's called Relentless, and it was quite an incredible journey against all odds. And she was in a state of complete disability. She was unable to do anything for herself. She had no idea who she was, what she was. She was unable to even sit by herself. She had no vestibular system to speak of. She was paralyzed on the right-hand side. And the doctors sort of said to us at that point, you need to put her into an institution and there's nothing we can do. And there's nothing further from the truth. I started to study and I came across something called, in the first instance, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And I'm actually sitting in my hyperbaric oxygen clinic at the moment. And this was a cornerstone of her rehabilitation. And I started to study everything about the brain and brain rehabilitation. And then I started to stay one step ahead of her in her rehabilitation process, and kept on learning and learning and learning. I also run a podcast called Pushing the Limits that I've been running for 9 years now, and I get to interview some of the most incredible, prestigious doctors and scientists in the planet to talk about their latest in research and the things that are coming down the pipeline and the things that are already here that can help us with the aging of the immune system, with longevity and everything related to health optimization. But the catalyst behind all this really was my mum's story. And this helped me really dive into it and really forced me to learn what I could do to rehabilitate her. It took me 2 years to get her from this massively brain damaged state, unable to do anything for herself, to having a full driver's license, her full power of attorney back, going to the gym 5 days a week and having full independence and walking, kilometers at a time again. And this incredible story really empowered me to realize that we're capable of far more than what we think we are. I have a background before this as an ultra endurance athlete, so I was already aware of the incredible things that the human body can do. I've been told for decades that you can't do what you do. And, I've run over 70,000 kilometers. I've done expeditions all around the planet. I've done ultra marathons, over 140 of them, run 70,000 kilometers. And I'd always been up against the odds. I've always come across people who would tell you can't do that. It's impossible. You're not going to make it, and so on and so forth, and always found a way around obstacles. Never had a heck of a lot of talent, but just a lot of determination. And really, the mindset of that is really what was key in my mum's rehabilitation. But now that mindset is also turned into researching for people who are getting older, like myself, and wanting to understand longevity, wanting to understand what's happening in the world out there as far as research is concerned. And what I've identified in the last few years is that the aging of the immune system is one of the key targets for us to go after. It's the key to health span, if you like, the aging of the immune system. And if we can slow that, we can really start to make an impact on all of the hallmarks of aging. So there are 12 hallmarks of aging. A lot of you will be aware of that groundbreaking paper that came out over a decade ago, and it was the first the 9 hallmarks of aging, now the 12 hallmarks of aging. And there are many different aspects to this and to the aging human body, but at the core and at the basis is immune system health. If you can get your immune system to be healthy, you have a massive knock effect for most of the other hallmarks of aging, if not all of them. And so as I started to uncover this and discover this, I came across the work of the Stanford University and the Buck Institute's 1000 Immunomes Project, headed up by Dr. David Furman. And they are looking at using big data sets, AI-driven data to understand what are the immune factors that we can identify that can help us understand when an immune system is going awry and what we can do about it and how we can target it. So that research, they have done something called an inflammatory clock, and it gives us targets to go after, in particular one called CXCL9, which really stands out as a chemokine. A chemokine is a chemical messenger, if you like, that recruits the immune cells to do their thing. When this gets too high, this is an indication that the immune system is not going to be doing too well. And then there are other ones that we more commonly know about, like IL-6 and IL-1 beta and tumor necrosis factor alpha and NF-kappa B, and a decrease in anti-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin 10. So these are all things that we could target. So we were thinking about this as when I first decided to launch AVIM and to, I wanted a formulation that was really going to look at the aging of the immune system and really go after this problem that we have with the aging of the immune system. Now, there is one reason why we are susceptible to all of the age-related diseases as we get older, is because the immune system is going awry. It's no longer got the surveillance that it had when it was younger. It has more memory cells. It has less of the naive cells. It has a lot of things that start to go wrong, basically, with the immune system. And so when we want to target this, we can go specifically after that. And that's what we decided to do at AVIM Labs. So then I decided to get a team together who could really formulate a formulation for us that was going to really be at the cutting edge of what we know and what we understand. And I reached out to Dr. Elizabeth Youth, who's one of the world's most renowned cellular health experts and a teacher and mentor and friend of mine. And we started to scour the world for how we could put together a formulation that would tick a lot of the boxes of the aging of the immune system. So we wanted to go after the low-grade chronic inflammation that's happening in the body, these upregulation of the pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines, and we wanted to downregulate those, and we wanted to upregulate some of the anti-inflammatory cytokines. And we wanted to understand how we could affect things like thymic involution. Now, the thymus gland, some scientists are actually working on how do we replace the thymus gland as we get older, but no one's managed to do that yet. Maybe one day we'll be able to do that. But let me explain a little bit what the thymus is. So we have in our chest this thymus gland, and when we're babies, this is a huge gland that sits in the chest. If you take an x-ray of a baby's chest, it's absolutely ginormous. It looks like a giant tumor in their chest, but it's the thymus gland. And the thymus gland's job is to educate the T cells, the thymic cells of the immune system, to mature so that they can go and create an adaptive immune response and help respond to different pathogens and bacteria and viruses and so on and so forth. Now, once we reach puberty, the thymus gland is at its biggest and most powerful and effective. And then from the age of puberty, already at the age of 13, 14, 15, it starts to decline. And by the time you get to my age, in your mid-50s, it's already a tiny little fatty nub that's not doing very much at all. And this is one of the reasons why we have a less effective immune system as we get older. And so we wanted to look at something that could actually support the thymus gland. Now, in our world, we can also use things like peptides, like thymosin alpha-1 and thymosin beta-4 are known for giving you back some of the functions that the thymus gland used to do. But these have become very hard to get hold of now and to have. And so we were looking around for other supplements in the natural health world, if you like, that could really do this. And we came across a product called Immunel that is a protein-rich peptide. It's a colostral whey extract. So it's like colostrum on steroids. And for the want of a better explanation, it's a much more powerful version of colostrum. Now, colostrum is the first food that the mother produces for the baby, and it is really nature's most powerful superfood. And if you think about it, when colostrum is developed by nature over millennia and hundreds of thousands of years, if not longer, millions of years since mammals were on the planet, to feed our most vulnerable babies that are born basically with hardly an immune system, and they have some immune system. So human babies do have some immunoglobulins from their mother that's passed through the placenta, but other mammals like cows, for example, their calves don't get any immune system, so they're born with absolutely none. And so the colostrum of a cow is super rich in these immunoglobulins, right? And these are really powerful, not only for the baby, but also for adults. And they help make the permeable barriers in the body into tight junctions. They seal and heal up the barriers. So when a baby is born, it is born basically with a permeable gut lining and all the barriers, actually. So everything from your lungs to your reproductive tract to your skin to your eyes. These are all barriers that interface with the outside world, your mouth, your esophagus, your digestive tract. And these have permeable membranes when we're born. And the colostrum seals these membranes and makes for tight junctions. Some of you may have heard of the term of leaky gut. Well, leaky gut is basically when you have these tight junctions are starting to pull apart because of insults in our environment. And this is the problem that we have nowadays. There's over 100,000 chemicals that have been dumped into our environment from industrialization, and we've put these in the last 50 to 100 years that have just suddenly hit the market. Most of these have never been tested for their safety in humans, and we are being contaminated every day by some of these toxins and chemicals. They're in our personal hygiene products, in our cleaning products, in our air from our exhaust. They are in our foods because of things, like glyphosate that have been put onto our crops and into the soil and so on and so forth. So it's really hard for us as human beings living in this toxic world that we now have to have really good tight junctions and tight barriers. And this is one of the factors that is leading to a degradation of the barrier function in our body. And this in turn leads to chronic low-grade inflammation and a speeding up of the aging process and a degradation of the immune system in the follow-on from that. So Immunel was something that we really wanted to put into the mix in our formulation. And this has also been shown to increase the activation of CD69, which activates your natural killer cells. And your natural killer cell, they are the ones that are going after the cancers and the pathogens and killing them off. So it's really important that we have good natural killer cell activity, and Immunel has been shown to increase CD69, which causes the increase of the activity of their natural killer cells. So that's just one example. It helps with the clearance of things like pneumonia. There's clinical studies and things behind that. And I won't go into all of the details of Immunel here in this video because that's its own video on itself. But suffice to say, this was a cornerstone piece of this immune system. The other one that we then came across, because we were wanting to lower interleukin-6, we were wanting to lower the levels of tumor necrosis factor alpha. We were wanting to improve, again, the barrier function, and we were looking for a product that could help with all of this, and we came across IDP. And this is really an innate immune response. So in the cow, this is actually from skim milk, and it's a concentrated suite of 50 bioactive whey proteins that have been taken out of skim milk. So you get your milk, and most of that is water. If you take out the water, you're left with the proteins, and if you take out the whey fraction of that, and then from the whey fraction, a little tiny portion of that will have these bioactive whey proteins, and that's what we have in our formulation. So a company called Quantec has been studying this for over 15 years, and this is super powerful. It has something called lactoferrin in it, which if you look up lactoferrin online and start to do some research on lactoferrin, you'll understand how amazing, what lactoferrin can't do is more, is probably a better way to look at it, because lactoferrin does just so many positive things in the body. That's 40% of the IDP. And then we have lactoperoxidase, and that's another very powerful, and this helps with, is an antimicrobial and an antioxidant. It helps lower the oxidative stress in the body, and it's antimicrobial as well. And then there is the rest of the suite, the other 48 bioactive proteins that are involved, and it's really the synergy of these 50 together. So this is much, much more powerful than just lactoferrin alone, because it's a suite that the job of the suite of bioactive whey proteins in the cow is actually to protect the cow from having the breakdown of their own health when they're looking after their young. So these are nature's ways of helping ourselves, right? This is nature's way of helping us. And yes, this is across species, but we know from clinical research that these bioactive proteins do the same things that they do in the cow in the human body. And then the Immunel side of the story, with the immunoglobulins and the protein-rich peptides, and the way that the peptides are actually a powerful piece of that story, was really compelling for us. And then we looked into something called carnosic acid, which actually is an extract of the rosemary plant, and that's another big product from New Zealand. That our rosemary here in New Zealand has a very high levels of the bioactive extracts from the plant, and really is a powerful. And this one goes after that CXCL9 that I mentioned briefly as being one of the key targets that the Stanford Immunomes Project, 1000 Immunomes Project, has identified that we really want to lower if we want to have an optimal immune system. And then we added another thing called kawakawa. Now, kawakawa is a traditional Māori medicine. I'm of Māori descent. I'm from New Zealand. My father was Māori, and this has been used for centuries by our people for so many medicinal purposes. And now modern science is starting to catch up with why this is just so powerful and why our people used it so successfully. And in the immune system, this upregulates the anti-inflammatory cytokine called interleukin-10, and it does this very, very strongly. It also lowers tumor necrosis factor alpha, and lowers the IL-6, and it lowers NF-kappa B, which is more at the top of the cytokine tree, if you like. It affects lots of cytokines underneath it when you lower NF-kappa B in the body. So this culmination that we've put together of this formulation is just a super powerful. It's the ultimate in immune formulations. And I'm so excited about this because I was desperately searching for things to help my immune system as I get older, as I'm heading into, towards 60, and for my mother who's in her 80s and who's very fragile and has comorbidities, has had cancer, has had hip breaks, has had the stroke and the aneurysm and all of these things. I wanted something that was safe for a fragile person to take, that was going to improve their immune system, that was going to support their surveillance for things like cancer. And that's what our immune systems do. So when our immune systems go down, that's when we are going to fall more prey to such things. And then we also don't want an over revved up immune system, right? We often hear the term, oh, we want to boost our immunity. No, we don't want to boost our immunity. We want to modulate our immune system. We want the inflammatory cytokines initially when we have an insult, when we have a bacteria or a pathogen or whatever the case, a virus, but we don't want it to continue on for long periods of time. It's I'll give you the analogy of if you had a spot on the wall, if you start scrubbing the spot off, right, and that's good for a start, you're getting rid of that spot on the wall. But if you keep rubbing, you're going to rub right through the wall, and that's not a good thing, right? And that's sort of what happens in our immune systems. When we have a virus or a bacteria or pathogen of some sort come in, we want our immune systems to respond, to send out these cytokines and chemokines to do their job, to activate natural killer cells and other cells to do their thing. We want to produce antibodies. We want all of that response, but then we want it to calm down again. And what we're seeing is a lot of autoimmunity because we are over revving up our immune system by having insult after insult. One of the other things that also happens as we get older is that most of us have been exposed to viruses of some way, shape, or form. And a lot of these viruses stay latent in the body, like the herpes simplex virus or the Epstein-Barr virus or the CMV virus. And even perhaps COVID, we're not sure yet whether that stays latent in the body. And the immune system then can keep on top of it when you're young. But it's always having to work to keep these viruses under control. And what we see is when we get older, these viruses come back to bite us in the butt, so to speak, because they come out again. And so we want to get our immune system strong enough to be able to respond and to keep these viruses under control and so that they don't get out of control. So our formulation is really going to be ticking all of those boxes. And I'm super excited. I'm going to have everybody on my family on this for the rest of their lives. And that's why I made this formulation along with my friends and Dr. Yurth as our scientific advisor. And this is really a formulation that I think everybody should be on when they're older, or for younger people even who are dealing with immune problems. And because this isn't just happening to our older population, we are seeing even in our young population, because of the toxins in the environment and the constant insults that we're exposed to and the viruses that we're exposed to, that this can even be you can even have a declining immune system from a very, very young age. So I think it's a formulation that is going to be game-changing in the immune sector. It is a very powerful healer and sealer of all the barriers in the body, as I said, and that is alone a reason to be taking it, but all of these other aspects. And I'm going to be doing a series of videos on each of these ingredients and doing deeper dives over time to explain a little bit more detail about how the immune system works and why we've done it this way and, you know, what it covers off. But for today, I just wanted to give you a bit of a backstory as to why and the passion behind this project, because I want to see my mum live well over 100 years old, and I want her to intersect some of the great things that are coming down the pipeline as far as our longevity perspective is concerned, and some of the incredible technologies. And to do that, I need to make sure that she's well enough right now to have a good immune system and to keep being strong. And so that's the story behind Avum Labs' product, which is Rejuvenate. And we're really excited to get this to the market and to see and hear from you guys about what you're experiencing when you take it. And we would love your feedback. I'd love you to keep an eye on some of your blood markers and things like that as well, so that you can understand what influence is this actually having. Because sometimes when we take pills, we don't actually know. If we take a supplement, we don't actually know if it's doing anything, but often it is. It's doing it on a cellular level, and you don't know exactly what's going on. All you know is that you didn't get sick, or you didn't get cancer, or you didn't get Alzheimer's, or you didn't get, whatever the case may be that you're dealing with. But it's a prevention strategy, and prevention is unfortunately very hard to quantify. And it's about being proactive, taking control of your health, understanding that your immune system is declining if you are aging. It is declining from puberty onwards. Your thymus is shrinking, and you want to do everything in your power to support that immune system in the face of all of the insults that we are facing. So thank you for your time today. I hope that was a good explanation for you, and I look forward to sharing more educational pieces with you shortly.